They don't have a lot of time left to make this successful.
I will trust the process with Matt Reeves and give him every benefit of the doubt.
This is the Villainz Lair podcast. Welcome to the lair.
And welcome everyone inside the Villainz Lair on a Tuesday. So happy to have you here with us, and happy to have my guy Alvin back in the saddle. Alvin, how are you, brother?
What's up, G, man? Just chilling at Legoland, bro.
Oh, wow.
Hanging out with all the Lego characters and some rides over there. Very fun place. I highly recommend it. I also highly recommend sunblocks because now I got a tan line.
I've always wondered, I've never been there, but I've always wondered, are there just stores everywhere selling all these crazy Lego sets, and can you find, all kinds of cool stuff there?
Yes, you're absolutely right. There are Legos all over the place. They have exclusives too that they sell over there. It's a fun place overall. I wanted to buy some of their keychains. They have a lot of cool keychains with like Batman and Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and stuff
Oh, wow.
like that. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's super dope, super dope. Just want to remind everyone before we start, because we've got some Batman news to talk about today, but want to remind everyone that you can head over to wherever it is that you get your podcast, whether it's Amazon, whether it's Apple, Spotify. You can download the audio version of this podcast at those places and take us on the go and listen to our podcast, our show, wherever it is that you listen to those shows, whether at the gym or inside your car, wherever it is.
Yeah, man. I'm like running and sweating and listening to the Villainz Lair podcast, and all of a sudden I get that nice little boost because I heard something awesome going on. That's when you really listen to this podcast.
Also, with Comic-Con about 2 weeks away here in San Diego, we will be doing a live stream on Saturday, July 25th. That is the night that Marvel does its Hall H presentation. So check out the first ever Villainz Lair live stream. You can find it by subscribing to the channel or just checking out the channel. We'll be posting links on our Instagram page to tease where you can find that. So we will be reacting live to any of the announcements that come out of that Marvel Hall H presentation and any video, and we'll be happy to share everything we find that night from that presentation.
Yeah, man, the rumor mill is ramping up, and we're gonna be there. I might not be there physically, but we'll be there talking about it on the interweb. So
we will all be there in spirit for sure. So DC Studios, we talked about Marvel at San Diego Comic-Con. DC Studios will not have a presentation this year, but that doesn't mean that there aren't some big things in production right now. And currently, Matt Reeves is finally shooting the Batman Part 2. So we are starting to get, news nuggets and casting and notes here and there. And one of the biggest ones we've got so far, and this came out in the last 24 hours or so, is that Barry Keoghan is set to return as the Joker. Now, I say return because he got into makeup. He was at Arkham. I think we saw him in a scene as Batman walked by his cell. But we didn't get in the movie the scene of Batman and him talking. That was revealed a week later after release, and the studio released a deleted scene that could have been probably one of the coolest parts of the entire movie. I don't understand why these things happen like this, and directors sometimes are so overly worried about pacing and run times, and it really costs the movie a really awesome scene. But either way, Barry Keoghan is back as the Joker for Batman Part 2.
Well, if they would have showed that in the post-credit scenes, I wouldn't be as pissed off as I was walking out of that theater, as I mentioned in previous shows, because of watching it in 4DX. But yeah, I mean, like, what he's returning as a Joker now, so I know that it takes place in winter, so everyone's still speculating it's Mr. Freeze. So if you get the Joker in there, you get Mr. Freeze in there, you get Two-Face in there, you're getting pretty much a good stew of the Batman Rogues Gallery. We could be in for a treat for the Batman Part 2. And hopefully, he has if he's returning as the Joker, hopefully there's more of a plot line for him at this point, rather than just like maybe him walking by him in a cell.
Right. So if we're getting Barry Keoghan as the Joker, it's already sort of not officially been announced, although we know Brian Tyree Henry is officially in this. What we don't know, and we can only go by what we're hearing, is that it is Harvey Dent, not Sebastian Stan playing, excuse me, it is Brian Tyree Henry playing Harvey Dent, not Sebastian Stan, and that Sebastian Stan, which we'll talk about a little more here in a second, is Victor Zsasz. So it's funny to me that, this movie's in production. Batman is known to have the, DC's greatest rogues gallery, maybe the greatest rogues gallery in all of comics. And then you have Spider-Man Brand New Day about to release this later this month. And we've heard about, I talked about yesterday, 7 villainous forces in this movie. Whether it's, six villains and the Hand. And so Spider-Man is typically known to have Marvel's, biggest rogues gallery. So I think these studios and these filmmakers are realizing, like, in the past, they've been, the word overstuffed has been thrown around. But if you write it as good as you did in No Way Home, when they had the Sinister Six in that, and yes, there were 6, Venom was in that movie, then it can work, and it really helps, it helps you at the box office, and it gets way more eyeballs interested, way more eyeballs on this, and way more people interested.
Damn, they're just trying to hit you with their biggest guns with these villains for both universes, the Batman and the Spider-Man. For Spider-Man, it's working right now. For Batman, we should wait and see, but everyone is getting excited for it. As you mentioned in Spider-Man, there's like 6 or 7. 6, 7. That's pretty much dead.
It had to be done.
I had to do it. I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean, they're really pulling in all the stops for this one. And I feel like with Batman, you kind of have to now, like, especially they're mentioning like that the Bane and Deathstroke movie where they're really gonna focus on that, and that's their priority. Wow, times really has changed lately when you're not even focusing on the heroes, rather let's get more villains. There's a pitch meetings going on where a studio exec is just saying, you know what, we need more villains. Let's just get villains all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, James Gunn kind of went the other route with his Superman, right? Where, he had the Justice Gang in there, and there were just so many, but there were a lot of villains. There were just a lot of characters. And I think, characters is maybe what the studios are asking for, because Avengers Infinity War made $2 billion, Endgame made $2.5 billion, and there were tons of characters, and they showed you how you could balance that properly. And to this day, that those 2 movies are the most the highest grossing superhero movies of all time. So I think the blueprint is, more is better, and the less is more thing doesn't work, because we've seen, smaller franchises like Thunderbolts, or the Marvels, or, obviously Supergirl, which we'll talk about a little bit. Those things just did not work.
Yeah, I mean, if I was cooking in a kitchen, if I'm making a stew, I'm not gonna put every ingredient I have in the fridge and put it in there, You do what makes sense, what makes it delicious, and for them to just keep putting characters on without backstories is just a little ridiculous. I get it, like Spider-Man, Brand New Day. You put the Punisher in there. We know what's going on with the Punisher lately. They whipped out some uh series, and he was in Daredevil, and they had that special presentation. Makes sense. The Hulk makes sense. He was in a bunch of movies, but uh before getting into all of that, because I can easily get into that right now.
We will.
We will. When my thought is over for this Batman, maybe we can get into what I really want to talk about in this episode today.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to get to all that in the moment. We're going to have a bigger conversation about this. But just real quickly on Barry Keoghan, what a super, super talented actor. And if you go back and you find that, it's not hard to find. If you find that scene that they deleted from the Batman with him and Batman, it's sensational. And I can't wait to see more of his take on the Joker, as we kind of figure out. I'm not sure we know how big of a role he will have in this movie. I think they're trying to build to maybe the Joker being the main villain to cap off the trilogy. But I still think anytime he's going to be on screen, it's going to be magic.
It's going to be magic, and also hard shoe to fill, sort of say.
Sure.
It's got to be really tough. Like, if he has a big role on this one rather than, like a scene or even like a cameo, everyone's going to be so quick to be critical.
Sure. But at least he had Jared Leto in between he and Heath Ledger. So then anything could be better than that.
Right. And the Joker too did terrible with Joaquin Phoenix. Obviously did a good job in the first one, but the second one was terrible. Well, I guess I can say now technically he wasn't the Joker. So
Right. All right. So I mentioned Sebastian Stan earlier that we think he may be playing Victor Zsasz. Well, a new photo really solidifies it for me anyway, showing him clean shaven, showing him with the shaved head. They're in production right now. I can't imagine that this means he's playing anybody else, unless, again, like you said, maybe it is Mr. Freeze. He had a shaved dome, but I think that there are several reports saying Sebastian Stan is playing Victor Zsasz, who is a serial killer. Matt Reeves really likes to go the serial killer route with these films, doesn't he?
I think that's really screwed up if he's not Two-Face or Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
Because I was really looking forward to him as Two-Face, believe it or not. Not to say Victor Zsasz is not a cool character to watch on screen. I just see Harvey Dent as more of a popular villain at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He can definitely I feel like with Warner Brothers and DC, you kind of need to really have known characters rather than other characters that maybe comic book readers know or animation fans know, that you kind of want your audience who are casual fans to be like, oh, cool, Two-Face, rather than a Victor Zsasz. So, I mean, obviously Sebastian Stan is going to kill it no matter what he does. He brings in 100%. I just hope that, from having one working arm to having one working face, I would like to see him play Two-Face.
Yeah. And like we were saying, it sounds like, according to the insiders and the reports, it's Brian Tyree Henry playing Harvey Dent and potentially Two-Face if that's where this movie goes. We also, we've heard that potentially there is a plot about the Court of Owls, or the the main antagonists in this. We don't really know a ton, other than we know what actors are in, and we are speculating who they're playing, and we are hearing reports on who they're playing. So there could be a lot going on in this movie, and that with Matt Reeves, I completely trust him after what he did with the Planet of the Apes movies and what he did with the first Batman. I will trust the process with Matt Reeves and give him every benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of they don't have a lot of time left to make this successful. It's kind of like you either go all in or, you kind of make a shitty movie again in Hollywood. But
Hmm.
I think with this one, everyone loves a good Batman movie. Everyone's going to be quick to judge. So, wherever you do, Matt Reeves, uh, listen to the fans and listen to your coworkers because you have one shot at this. Make it good. Your legacy is on the line.
Wow, wow, man, tough crowd, tough crowd.
Yeah.
Um, so we wanted to talk about something a little bit bigger picture here. And Alvin, you wanted to sort of get something off your chest, I think.
Yeah, dude. Speaking of tough crowds, bro. All over the interweb right now, everyone and their mother is reporting that Supergirl is going to be released on digital and paid video on demand the end of July. That is freaking crazy to me because obviously they were in a panic button. They had to push the button down because there's a 74% drop in the second week. Uh,
Massive. That's a massive
Massive,
drop.
man. Fun fact, it's a steeper nosedive than freaking Morbius. And Morbius
Oh,
freaking sucked. I'm
Jesus.
sorry. So, I mean, what does this mean? Nobody's watching it. I mean, people are watching it, but you're also going up against Toy Story and Minions in the box office. There's already, it's already hard enough, like getting people to go in the movie theaters because it's so expensive. Let alone like being a successful movie, having that good box office numbers. Not only that, but a lot of people are like putting this in an article. Oh, why is Supergirl so terrible? With the Hollywood Reporter. Actually, I got to get this exact quote. Um, they published an article which they were talking to a studio exec. Who knows who that is? They didn't mention the name, but pretty much says the quote verbatim was Gen Z does not care about superhero movies, noted one studio head. That genre belongs to millennials. Wow, bro. I can I'm not going to agree with that. Uh but how do you feel about that, man? By the way, that article is coming from Boris Kitt from the Hollywood Reporter.
Um, yeah, I mean that's a lot to unpack. There's certainly a level of proof is in the pudding, sort of, so to speak. If you kind of look over the last couple years, and how this genre of film has performed at the box office. Obviously, we just saw Supergirl tank. A 74% drop off in the second week is horrible. That's really bad. But then when you couple that with it made 37 the opening weekend, I heard John Campia on his show earlier this week saying, "Well, yeah, obviously it's going to drop because everyone saw it." Well, no, everyone didn't see it, or it would have made more than 37 million the first weekend. If everyone saw it, it would have made 100 million. It would have made 55, 60, the initial projections were. And then you could talk to me about that fall off. But let's get back to, so that movie struggled. Last year was not a good movie or was not a good year, excuse me, for Marvel Studios in terms of just box office revenue, because you had a great film in Thunderbolts, and that didn't, crack 200 million worldwide, and Fantastic Four didn't do what was expected of it, and that was a very good movie too. And so we've seen that. So that, I think that's where you're starting to wonder, is there a fatigue issue there? I don't necessarily know if there's a fatigue issue. If we're saying that, Gen Z just isn't into these movies, that's different. Then they're not fatigued. That's just they're not accustomed to picking up a comic book on a shelf. They're not into the genre the way that some of these other age groups were into these, and I just think that we don't know. I mean, or excuse me, we are about to see a huge boom um, with the tracking that's going on for Spider-Man Brand New Day this month. You know, we're looking at a potential opening weekend haul. This is like the good old days, right? Like it's being projected to make 225 million in its opening weekend. That's insane.
It is. And I highly believe that Spider-Man is gonna, do wonders in the box office and in the movie theaters and obviously selling popcorn buckets. But look, I have a nephew, and among his friends who, are picking up comic books right now and are loving like the Absolute series with Batman and Aquaman and Superman, all that stuff. And it's great because it's a different take. But my whole point is, with Supergirl kind of failing, and this has been a problem with Warner Brothers and DC for a little bit. Is like they're putting Supergirl that no one was asking for that film at all. No one was asking for it. Not to say I'm not hating on Supergirl at all. Poor Millie Alcock, because I thought she did an amazing job, as we talked about before. I just think that at this point, you have a lot on the line. You have these mergers going on. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You play the greatest hits that you have out of your characters. You have so many. You don't have to like introduce new ones. Look, Peacemaker did well. It's doing great. As an HBO series, you can experiment. You can put characters in there. You can put episodes. You can see what people like. In video games, you can do that. You can see what people like. You can see what people like to choose. What storylines. You're making a feature film in the summertime where moviegoers love to go when they love to go. And you can't take those risks to experiment which ones they're gonna like seeing, which ones they're gonna approve. You have to put your great look. My whole thing is, you've been so successful with animated series. Those storylines are great. Why can't you just put these standalone movies or even connect them with a bigger role? Like, you can put the same exact characters, same exact actors, put these storylines in and make a great movie. My example, Flashpoint, Flash. That could have been a good movie if you would have just came out with that right before you have these parallel universe, different timelines start coming on with different movies. It actually had a really good story with great characters. Just Ezra Miller wasn't doing so great and the popularity amongst people around that time, and it just came out too late, I'm sorry to say. But if that movie would have came out a couple of years before that, it would have been great. My point is, that's a Flashpoint movie. That would have been a good storylines. All these Elseworld storylines are great. You don't have to reinvent those. You could just put those on the big screen in a summer blockbuster and people will love it. You come out with an Injustice storyline one summer and the next summer after, you know how people would love that? That would be crazy. But instead, you have to create your template from your previous movies that was successful. Hint, hint, James Gunn producing it. And you don't have to be the master of all storylines to checkpoint. You have to listen to like your fans a little bit, or maybe, I don't know how it works. We don't work there. We don't know how the pitch meeting goes or the writing rooms. You don't have to have that same template. See what actual works. You can do it. There's a ton of stories. Scott Snyder's doing cool stories out there in the comic book world. And in the past and now, and everything's been working. Now he's making those animations, about to make those animations, and those are just working. So
Right.
I'm just saying, you can make this work. It's not that rough to keep the same storylines going.
I think DC and Marvel, based on last year, are realizing you got to play the hits, right? Especially in the summertime. If this Supergirl movie felt like a February release, where it wouldn't have had, this would have been a great February release to, kind of own the month. even January, something like that. This would have been, way better suited for that. I also think it would have been way better suited for an HBO series, kind of like we were talking about.
100%.
Why we decided to make a Green Lantern, knowing he's an DC A-lister, make a series of that and then a movie out of, just because she had a cameo in Superman. That should have, Millie Alcock's Supergirl should have been a series, an 8-episode series where every week her and God, I'm forgetting who the character was. That's how forgettable it was.
And
Yeah, the young girl that hires her basically to find her parents' killer. They go to a different planet every episode, and until they the finale where they catch them, they meet they fight against a different villain. They introduce some new characters. You could have had a Martian Manhunter cameo at some point in that season. You could have built that out. That is a way better version to do this, and then you make a Lanterns movie for the summertime, because that is your A-lister, and you need to learn that it is time to, bring out the big bats, the big guns for movies in the summertime, when that's what people are starving for.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that series would have been great. You have your big bad way in the end. You have your villain like in each episode, kind of like the way CW did it, where they were actually, believe it or not, say what you will about that Arrowverse, man, they were really successful at that time, bringing in different heroes and different villains and different Easter eggs all over the place, and then making those standalone storylines. Like they had those specials, and they were really successful with that. They could have done that with Supergirl. It would have been okay to have another, like, especially like an HBO version of DC. Peacemaker was really successful. That worked. That was really entertaining. They brought in different characters there and experimented. That's when you experiment with characters, whether you're gonna like them or not. It's gonna break the internet. You're gonna see who the fan favorites are. And like we're saying, you bring in the big guns to your feature film because it's a feature film. You're still trying to get butts to go in that seat in the movie theater. It's hard enough trying to get people to go to the movies, let alone superhero movies. But at the end of the day, though, I don't think there's really that superhero fatigue. I think generations will still watch this if you just make a right movie. If you just make a good movie. Look at Obsession. Right. That worked.
Exactly.
No one knew anything about that film. They come out with horror movies all the time, every year. I don't even know how many horror movies you come out with, but there's definitely a lot. And I'm not going to say there's a horror movie fatigue, because that's just a different genre of its own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think superhero fatigue is necessarily the right way to say. I don't think people are tired of the genre. I think people are tired of,
bad movies.
Bad movies, mediocre movies. They're with this genre, maybe more than any other in all of film, is about spectacle. I mean, we're talking about characters with superpowers, right? So these need to be these massive, fantastical, movies that showcase, all these abilities and powers and characters, and that's what people are going to flock to. We saw them flock to Endgame. We saw them flock to Infinity War. The X-Men is going to be a perfect example of, a team, a large team of characters, all with abilities and fighting against multiple villains. And those movies are going to go nuts. We've seen how, done right, properly at times, those movies really succeed. And so in December, when Avengers Doomsday comes out and it brings together this massive roster of characters, we are going to see just how big this genre is when it makes $2 billion plus again.
Right. And now all of a sudden, because Mr. Terrific, had good laughs for Superman, that they're gonna they're gonna make.
But it's a series, right? The Mr.
Yeah,
Terrific thing they're
it's a
developing.
series. They're gonna
Okay.
make a series out of Mr. Terrific. Well, great. I still go by your timeline. You don't have a lot left in your arsenal to come out with all these cool things. Which brings me to a point. There was another article about this Forbes reporter defending actually James Gunn, saying that they should not get rid of the Gunn universe and keep it going, which I kind of, I agree with them because I'm not ready to be introduced to a new universe yet.
I'm
It's
I'm ready to.
Cassie, in the Forbes saying that it's a bad idea to replace James Gunn. And no, don't replace James Gunn yet. And if you do, don't replace your characters yet in this universe because we're just getting used to it now. And if you're gonna do that, just make standalone movies at this point.
Yeah, I'm ready to nickname the Gunverse Gundam at this point because there's some really dumb James Gunn decisions as far as how they've laid this out, and um, having to like rely on Clayface as your savior. Clayface is such an outlier.
Yeah, that's a good
It
example.
it's a they're making it in a horror genre that the superhero genre doesn't necessarily, or very often, I guess, make films in. So this is just an outlier, and if this, you can't you can't save a studio, you can't save a universe on something that drastically different, right? So
Right.
yeah, this is cool. That's a cool project. I'm actually really looking forward to Clayface. Again, it's not a movie that anyone was asking for, but hey, if we're gonna take a swing and we want to try, hey, let's try a character in a full on body horror flick. This is the one to do it, but it doesn't do anything, like anything at all, to build the greater DC universe, and it doesn't do anything to help Superman, Supergirl, Lanterns, or any of that. You've
No, it
you've
doesn't.
right. And you've chosen Supergirl over Wonder Woman. You've chosen Supergirl over Lanterns, Green, Hal Jordan. And now you've set yourself back because you haven't expanded anything to outside of Superman in the Trinity, and technically in the Justice League.
Yeah. And now you're telling us also that you're also gonna focus on Bane and Deathstroke movie, which obviously we both love those characters, villains, one of the best mercenaries around. But I don't understand why you can't just be like, okay, for example, uh, Death in a Family, Batman's Death in a Family is a really great novel, a great story. What if we just make a movie out of that? Don't have to make it to the T. We'll format it to the big screen. You know how cool that would be with the right director and the right actors playing it, how people would just fall in love with it. I bet you some people don't even know anything about that storyline who are not comic book lovers. But you know how successful it was, and just putting in the big screen, will do well.
So I think for me right now, and the biggest swing and miss in terms of philosophy for them is the focus is on doing something different, not on doing something. I don't necessarily want to say doing something dope because I think they hope that these movies are good, but their focus is we want to do something that you've never seen before, and I
Right.
think that's not necessarily what people are asking for. People want to see the characters they love the most do something they've never seen before, not just, hey, Bane and Deathstroke, that's never been done together. I mean, I'll go see that because I love those characters,
Yeah.
but the we are different than the mass audience.
Yeah. they're also saying that at the same time. They're like, let's see these movies that they've never seen before, but let's put the template of a movie that they've seen before that was successful, like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
Put it in the template of this movie.
Dude, you're right. That's the biggest problem, is that he took a property that was relatively unknown to the masses. You know, comic book fans knew who the Guardian, you know, hardcore Marvel fans knew who the Guardians were. But he had so much success with taking something that was so had never been done before. So now his entire playbook is to recreate that. And sometimes you get lucky, or the stars align perfectly, as they did for Guardians of the Galaxy, and he did a great job. But it doesn't mean it's that plan just isn't sustainable. And you're seeing that.
Yeah, it's like Quentin Tarantino is about to take over the DC universe, and all of a sudden, let's put Pulp Fiction's template over the new Batman movie. Let's see if that works. A little different, obviously, but
I'd love to edit that.
Actually, I'd probably go see that. But yeah, well, I don't think we should get rid of James Gunn right now at this point, but you have a lot of soul searching to do for your next installment, movies and TV shows. If Lanterns is a success, I'm rooting for it. I hope it is a success. That's great. But also, I don't want it to be a show where, Lanterns is a really good show, but it says nothing to me about the Green Lantern Corps.
Right.
I don't want it to be like, oh, it's a great show, but I also want it to be like, oh man, I'm really invested now in Green Lanterns, and I can't wait to see what they come up with in the next installments. And now we need to make a feature film out of this.
Yeah, none of this, I agree. It's not time to fire him. It's not time to get rid of him. Nothing is unsalvageable. But you're right. There needs to be some soul searching, and they need to maybe, for this next phase, have a better plan and kind of really look at what didn't work, why it didn't work, and how do we make it better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's all I got for this. I'm a little fatigued of talking about superhero fatigue. But yeah, I hope good things to come in the future. Let the Supergirl box office performance be learn from this one, instead of like making it as a failure. That's my advice for James Gunn, because I'm very I'm that kind of guy. I enlighten studio heads.
Yeah. Well, that's a perfect bow to put on that. The perfect period. So that's going to do it for today's show. Any final thoughts, Alvin, before we get out of here?
Yeah, actually, have you been playing Marvel Rivals?
Yes, sir.
Dude, I mean, it's a fun game. A lot of people are really into it. And they have a new hero. Yep,
New
right.
Character.
We have new character, Jubilee.
Jubilee.
Looking very attractive in her new getup.
Kudos to the animators at Marvel Rivals. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, good for you guys. I don't know, like it's like, you ever see the Injustice 2 animations versus Marvel Rivals? I don't know what we won't talk about those. I'm both married over here with kids.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be an exciting character, and they're playing off the momentum and the focus that X-Men 97 has with them. Again, X-Men 97 Day, let's go. So they're Jubilee is obviously a featured character on that series. So now we're getting our Marvel Rivals. So it's a great batch of synergy where you're gonna watch the show, you're gonna see her kick ass and be excited, and then you're gonna immediately hop on to your game and want to play as Jubilee or with the X-Men, and
Team up with the X-Men and Jubilee. And I'm just excited. I'm just excited for her powers, to see how they flow, to see how they matchups, and how they go up against cheating ass mofos in the game.
Exactly. We'll see when we get more. We'll show you once we get. So all we have at this point was like kind of like a leaked photo of her character, but once we get some of the gameplay videos and things, we will share those with you. All right, that's gonna. Yeah, exactly. It'll be pure fireworks on this show. Exactly. All right, that's gonna do it for today. For everyone that's been rocking with us for this 40 minutes, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for stepping inside the Villainz Lair, and we will see you all on the next one.